In the last video, we learned how to organize the data into tables. Now we're going to use the tables to then put it into graphical displays. So we have two main types. We have bar graph and a pie chart. And then the bar graph kind of goes into a Pareto chart, which I'll explain in a little bit. Again, these are for qualitative data only. So a bar graph consists of the relative in parentheses or frequencies, so both of them, either or, on one axis and the categories on the other axis. A Pareto chart is just a bar graph with the bars sorted with the highest frequencies on the left. So basically, largest to smallest. Then a pie chart consists of a circle divided into sectors that are proportional to the size of the frequency or relative frequency of each category. What I'm going to do is first show you what these look like, and then we're going to create them in Google Sheets. If you recall, here's the data for the frequency. Again, Ford was 5, Chevy was 12, and so on. So here you can see, I believe they put it in alphabetical order down here. That's what it looks like to me. So they put Chevy first, then Ford, and so on. So that's a bar chart. Here they did the same thing, but now they did it for relative. So everything stays the same on this horizontal axis, but vertically it changes to the relative size. So you can see here, they look identical except for the scaling on the vertical, and they should look identical because it's still the same information, just represented or showed in a different way. So some key features of a bar graph: there's equally spacing on each axis. Bars are going to be the same width. There should be labels on each axis. So we have frequency here, car type, and a title. Same for here. There should be equal spacing or scaling on the frequency, relative frequency axes. So these are consistently the same. These go up by 2s. These go up by 0.05. And the bars do not touch. And because this is qualitative data, the order does not matter, right? It doesn't matter which one you put first. So that kind of brings us into the next type of chart, which is called the Pareto relative frequency chart. You could also do the Pareto frequency chart with these. That would be fine too. These would just change. This would be 12 and 12, and so on. So it goes from highest to lowest. The reason why we can do this is because it is qualitative. Order does not matter. So it doesn't matter if you put Chevy before Toyota or vice versa. But if you were talking about quantitative data, numbers, the order will matter. And you're going to see that you're not going to have this ability to rearrange the data when it comes to quantitative. So we're going to make a bar graph with Google Sheets. Now, if you want to use Excel, you can. So we're going to practice making the bar graph above. So we want to enter the data into a column, and then we're going to want to highlight the proportion to plot. So if you recall, the last step we were on was organizing it, correct? So we had Chevy first. So I would go ahead, write Chevy, and then 12. Really, you're just going to copy your table from above here. So if you want to, you can just copy, pull up your Google Sheets. Remember, you're going to have to pull up a new Google Sheets. And if you need to do that, just go to google.com, or if that's your homepage, then you can go to Sheets, or you can go to Drive and add a Sheets there. So you have a few options. You want to paste, let's do values. Okay, so it looks like it gave us some extra spacing, which is fine. So I'm just gonna move these up. I'm gonna cut and paste. Control X is to cut. If you want to skip, so I'm doing it all by my keyboard here, save some time. And we had that the Ford was 5, Chevy was 12, 6, 12, 10, 5, 6, 12, 10, 5. So let's just do a frequency. Now if you want to do relative frequency, swap this out with relative frequency and put in the relative frequencies that we calculated. Also, a trick, if you want to add them all together, instead of doing it yourself, you do sum, and then you can highlight what you want to be added. 50. So the good thing about all these is that you can do equals 5, and I would just do divide by 50. There's your relative frequency. You can just drag it down. So I'll do that a little slower. So divide by 50, make sure you do 50, and then drag it down, that little box. And then you can see at the bottom right, they all add up to 1, which relative frequency does need to add up to 1. Okay, so let's graph this. So we entered the data, highlight the proportion to plot, don't include the total. Okay, we can do that. So let's do frequency. Okay, what do we want to do next? Select insert, then chart. So this is what it should look like. Oops, sorry. Go to insert, chart. Over here on the right, it should pop up. So what's our next directions? It says go to setup, then choose column chart. Setup, column chart. Column chart. Here we go. And then if you want to customize it or need to, so here's setup, column chart. Use customize, then to edit your axis titles. So customize, and here's a whole bunch of other stuff you can do. What's your chart title? Let's do type of car driven by college students. Okay, that will be our title. Horizontal is category, that looks good. Or you can say car type. Let's do car type. Vertical is frequency, that looks good. And you can center it how you want. So say you want that title to be centered. You can play around with it. But here is your frequency table. And that looks very similar to what was provided here. Okay, we're going to do that again for a pie chart. So the directions above are going to be very similar, except for now you're going to choose pie chart for your chart type. So let's try that out. Go to setup, chart type, and we want to go to pie chart. and see how it calculated the percentages for you. And that is your proportion or your relative frequency, but converted to a decimal, right? Or sorry, to a percentage. So for Ford, let's do Toyota. We had 0.24. To get to a percentage, you multiply by 100. And they match. You can see they all match. So that's another thing. You can kind of see that it's done correctly. Here you can visually see that Toyota and Chevy are the top car manufacturers, and then Ford is the least along with the other. So pie charts are common. It's best when the value of each slice is known on the chart. Otherwise, it's going to be hard to extract numbers from it. It's going to be hard to draw by hand accurately. So you feel free to use Google Sheets or Excel. So the homework does have multiple choice questions. You're going to need to select the correct pie chart. So you can start by just matching largest and smallest percentages, your relative frequencies to get that. If a data value can fit into multiple categories, you cannot use a pie chart. As an example, if you are asking people about their favorite national park is, and you say that they can pick their top 3 choices, then that total number of answers are going to add up to more than 100% of the people involved. So if it was just their favorite, you could, but when you say top 3, then you can no longer use a pie chart. So let's get some practice. Kara recognizes or categorizes her spending for the month into 4 categories: rent, food, fun, and other. What percent of her total spending did she spend on fun? Answer to the nearest whole percent. And let's get some practice doing a table. So the category is rent, food, fun, and other. Your frequency, okay, this is in dollars. So how many dollars? $261, $289, $217, and $433. Okay, you can go ahead and add these up. If you want, you can create a new Google Sheets and do this all there. I'm going to start with a blank one. So I'm just going to kind of set it up like our table. I'm going to type in rent, food, fun, and other, and then the corresponding values. Rent, food, fun, other. So we have 361, 289, 217, and 433. Remember, that's your frequency. So the sum, you want to add all those together. Hit enter, $1,300. So to find the relative frequency, you do equals this divided by 1,300. And you could do the sum again if you wanted of these to make sure they add up to 1. Let's just move these over so you're not having so many decimals. So 0.28, 0.22, 0.17, and 0.33. Okay, if you want to do this by hand, you would have added those together and you got 1,300 divided by 1,300, 361, 0.28, 0.22, 0.17, and 0.33. Add those, you get 1. Again, it's just the frequency divided by the total. Frequency divided by the total. That's how you get your proportion. So what percent of her total spending did she spend on fun? So here we have 0.17 to get it as a percent, because it's saying 1%, multiplied by 100%. Percent of her total spending is on fun. And this is the pie chart, so it looks like 17%. Let's get practice doing that. So highlight what you want to be graphed, insert chart, and then you're going to pick a pie chart. And your relative frequencies should look like your percentages. You can go ahead and customize the title, put in a legend if you'd like, but let's just quickly look at rent, 28% or 0.28, so it's very close. They rounded to 3 spots. So if you wanted to go 3 spots, you can see 27.8. You would just multiply all these by 100 to get a percent. 22.2, 16.7, and 33.3. That's how you would make a pie chart. You can also change that to a bar graph and get the same look.